mentioned there. You mentioned your own program that you host, America Off the Rails. Now, what do you like to focus on over there on that program?
Usually political in nature, a few news stories here and there. It runs Monday through Friday from 7 Eastern, basically 7 Eastern, runs for about an hour. I'm usually the opening act for most of the other folks that come on behind me, so I consider myself their crappy opening act, but hey, I like it. Because, I usually am followed by folks like the conservative curmudgeon, Jason DeWilkins. We also now have Red Nation Rising Radio. Their debut was last night on K98 Talk. We have Game On with JD and Stacy on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I mean, at this point, our evenings are really getting to the point where they're pretty full, and it's with some really high-quality folks. So it's one of the reasons why I come on earlier, so at least if nothing else, not too many people are listening to my show and they can tune in for the real ones later.
Now, do you have anything? I don't know if you can talk about all the good stuff that might be coming up, but what can you tell us that new that you guys have up your sleeves that you're coming out with?
Well, I mean, the newest venture that we just got involved in was partnering with Red Nation Radio. They actually started last night. We are in talks with another network that I believe your show is on as well, to do cross promotion, which is or your Rod Eccles show anyway, which is the Leading Edge Radio Network. We are probably going to start playing some of their content during the day because I don't have very many hosts during the day yet, and they're going to hopefully start playing some of our content as well, but we're still trying to iron all of that out. One of the biggest things that I'm into, which I noticed up until I really started trying to do it myself, not too many people were doing it because it was like all of the conservative station directors out there were just like, no, we want to keep everything in-house so that we can find ways to make money. I want to make, and their whole practice is web-based and clicks and traffic. I want the advertising pie that typically up until now has belonged to strictly terrestrial radio. I want advertising revenue, which means the more places I can put my shows, and which is obviously your general mindset as well, the more likely I am to be able to get advertisers. And then at that point, once I get that part figured out, then I can figure out how to get all the clicks and the web traffic for money for dessert. So, to quote Pinky and the Brain, my plan is to take over the world, but it's not working yet.
You know, with that quote, you have just lost probably half the listenership. I'm amazed at how many people I quote not just television and movies, but I tend to often quote cartoons because they have some of the best lines ever created, like Pinky and the Brain. That was an amazing cartoon. Again, much like Bugs Bunny, it'll never be duplicated. So I often quote Bugs Bunny lines, Roadrunner lines and all kinds of things, and people look at me like I have two heads when I say it, but I think it's funny. So I fully understand the Pinky and the Brain reference. Now, I know one of the things, it is kind of difficult, and it's probably because this is in the early stages. Rick, you're a pioneer in the digital media right now because it is starting to congeal, and people are starting to figure out how to make this work and how to make it viable. And one of the things that you're finding difficult to bring to fruition is the advertising dollars. Now, do you really think that it is that the old model of generating an income to keep a station running is really going to work in the digital world? I mean, people can fast forward through ads now. That's one of the beauties of buying subscription TV services like Netflix and Hulu. Either you have very few ads or you can just fast forward through them. How is that going to work with our platform?
Well, I mean, ultimately it would depend on how they're tuning in. I mean, as an example, when you tune into the show through our website or through the TuneIn server, you don't really have the option to fast forward through the program because it's actually carrying it live. Now, through podcast, yes, they would have the option to fast forward through them, but we hope in most cases that at least occasionally they won't. And I don't plan on filling up 5 to 6 minutes of break with commercials, so it will be a lot more like Hulu Plus, where they have advertisers, but it's only a couple here and there. But the more content I can get with those advertisers, the more money the station will make overall.
Now, are you looking to also hook up with things like YouTube, having a YouTube channel, or Camcastic, I think is the other one, or Vimeo? Oh, Vimeo is just, I think, is short spurts of video. Because I know one of the things that you can do with Spreaker is that you connected to YouTube, and it'll load up over on YouTube, although there isn't any video attached to it unless you actually are broadcasting video. And frankly, I don't know how that works, to tell you the truth. But again, I'm not one that wants to be in front of the camera. So I'll just stick behind the microphone on radio, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we actually already have everything tied to a YouTube channel because, as you mentioned, the Spreaker platform does automatically back up there. You can find it under my name on YouTube, which is Ricky Robinson. We have lots of shows that get posted there. It's not necessarily its own separate channel because for some reason Spreaker doesn't really want you to post it anywhere other than a YouTube channel that's tied to your name, or at least that used to be a restriction. I haven't played with it for a while to see if they've changed it, but I just decided to just keep letting things push there. And we do occasionally, when I have time, I do put edits and some other stuff up on a separate YouTube channel. So, I mean, we are on YouTube in a few different places, and it is something that I do plan on putting to use at one point. And a few of our hosts have mentioned interest in doing video broadcasting. So when we get to the point where the station is pretty well lined out, which we are getting there now, that may actually be my next venture. I myself, of course, will remain strictly off camera, but I don't have any issues with letting other folks that are more comfortable with using the video medium do so.
Now, do you think there is a trend going towards subscription services? I mean, again, like I said, you have Netflix, you have Hulu. HBO has now ventured away from just being strictly a cable TV offering with HBO Now, which, by the way, I have gotten so I could watch Game of Thrones. But you also are seeing, although it doesn't seem like satellite radio has really taken off. In fact, they may be in trouble and they may not be around in the next 5 years. But other types of revenue-generating types of subscription services, like Glenn Beck's Blaze TV radio system, I guess, is still strictly revenue is generated mostly by subscription service. Do you see that as something viable for a new candidate or a new network like yours?
It might be further down the road. We have really good numbers overall, but I don't think we would have the type of sustainability we would need to be able to do a subscription service and actually have it worthwhile. But it is something that at some point we may consider. It hasn't been something I've considered up until now because I know some folks that have tried to venture into subscription too soon and gone to the point where they are subscription only, and they've wound up eventually killing their own listenership. So that is not my ultimate goal. But at some point, my plan is, let's just be really honest. At this point, I'm going to be trying to branch off in as many different directions revenue-wise as I can. So I want the traditional advertising. I want, eventually, when we get things lined out properly, I want to be able to get the advertising through the clicks and the folks using my website to get to other folks' blogs that are on my station, all of that. And so at some point, subscription may become another method that we use, but I don't know if we would ever go to strictly subscription or not. And right now, our business model wouldn't support it because while we do have good traffic, I'm afraid we would lose over half of it even if we started charging people like $5 a month. I think we would lose too much traffic, and I don't think it would be worthwhile, at least not at this time. Glenn Beck built his listenership up using terrestrial radio before he started this particular venture, and he still uses terrestrial radio. His show is still broadcast in my hometown on KTOK, so I know he's still using terrestrial radio as well. So it's not like he's gone strictly subscription, and actually I do believe that he is now being offered on a few different cable networks, sadly not mine, so I am a subscriber to the Blaze. But it's just one of those things where if you do it right, subscription will work, but it usually only works in tandem with other things that can help build your numbers. So at some point you may consider it, but not at this time, though.
Okay, here comes the point of the show where I'm going to ask for you to put on your prestidigitatus cap and peer into the future. It is now November 2016. It's Wednesday, the day after the election. Who do you think that is? Who do you think is now the president-elect of the United States of America?
I can tell you for sure who I hope it's not, and that's either Clinton or Sanders. That being said, I honestly don't know at this point, because my big guy up until a few minutes ago, and he hadn't even declared yet, was Scott Walker, except I recently read an article where he's in support of reinstating the Patriot Act in its entirety, so I'm not so sure I'm going to be able to support him much longer. So as far as who I hope it is, up until about 10 minutes ago, my answer would have been Scott Walker. Governor Perry's made some pretty big waves with his recent announcement. We could do worse than that. So if nothing else, I hope it's at least maybe Governor Perry. Anybody but Clinton, Sanders, or Bush. I'm tired of political dynasties is another issue.
Okay. I don't blame you on that. Rick, finally, tell the listeners how they can interact and get in touch with you.
All right. Well, I do have a Facebook page. You can reach out to me there. It's www.facebook.com/Rowdy Ricky Robinson. You can also follow me on Twitter at @double_R_OKC. The show can be heard Monday through Friday on K98 Talk, its official home, as well as the Spark Radio Network. I also host another show called Finding Common Ground, which can be heard every Saturday morning. And my show, America Off the Rails, is available through iHeart and also AMFM247.com, which does include 7 small AMFM terrestrial markets. It does air there every Monday at 1 Eastern. So there are plenty of places to find us. And just in case there weren't enough, you can also download the show directly from Spreaker using their app, TuneIn, or also Stitcher. So, as I usually tell when everybody gets to this point, if you haven't found me yet, it's because you're not looking. And personally, I wouldn't blame you if you weren't. Just saying.
Well, Rick, it has been a pleasure, even with the couple of technical glitches we had. But thank you so much for spending the time with me this morning. I know you're a busy guy, and I really appreciate your time and your insight. It is great to be working with you over on your networks, and I wish you all the success that there is.
Thank you very much for your time, sir. It was an honor, and I fully understand technical issues. We had a similar situation when you were on with Grouchy, so I do understand.
Yes. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful afternoon and a great weekend, Rick.
You take care, sir.
And folks, that brings to the end our very first Liberty Cafe with yours truly, me. And we'll be back here again next week at 10 a.m. on Live 365. And you'll probably be able to catch a download from many different places. But until then, folks, I just hope you have a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend. Thanks for listening.